Hello friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this channel, Doc Cholo's vlog for Kali exercise. Okay, so we have done the first two lessons, and if you recall, the first lesson was named as Kurus, and the other lesson is termed as Figurang Walo. So this time I'm going to show you a lesson that is called plantsa tigbas. Plantsa tigbas, okay? So let me show you. The moves are quite different from the first two because if you recall, the kurus or ekis was made of two downward diagonal blows, okay? Two diagonal strikes. This was kurus, the first lesson. And the second lesson was two diagonal upward strikes, okay? Okay, and I hope you did do the exercise, because one of the important things in my lessons is that I want you to get the strength, the grace, and the coordination as well. So there must always be the gracefulness, the grace or the art. There should be the presence of grace. Okay. Now, mind you, we are emphasizing each and every move. There is an emphasis, exaggerated moves. Okay. And I want you to develop the exaggerated moves all the time. From there, once you get used to the exaggerated moves, then you can modify it yourself once you get used to the moves. Okay, now, plantsa and tigbas. Plantsa is, it's a Filipino term, a Visayan term for iron. You know, the flat iron? Flat iron, something like this. It goes to and fro, and it doesn't change. The plane, the plane is the same. Okay, and tigbas is actually chop. Tigbas means chopping, okay? So this move makes a difference between the first two moves because this one doesn't use much of the slice. The slice only is for the horizontal move, but the vertical move is as a chop. You start it with something like this, okay? Chop. Okay, so plantsa tigbas is made up of horizontal moves, okay, and a vertical move which is made up of is chop or a hacking move. So same condition goes through. We have the role of the reciprocating hand or the weak hand, okay. And you can, of course, you can mix it up with the first two moves. Okay, I hope you got that. This is the plantsa strike, and this is the tigbas. You see, the move is actually a chop, okay? And mind you, the chop always goes along with a change in body movement and of course the leg movement. The chop is made with one foot in front and the other foot at the back. So if you start with a parallel placed feet, okay, when you move this way, you strike it with the first move, the left foot going forward, and then you chop, and then you move the left to the back, and that makes the right foot ahead, okay? Okay, and the situation is repeated. Okay, you will note that at this point in time in lesson 3, this is lesson 3, and we have covered all the possible uh, ways on how the strike goes on, meaning to say how it is done. We don't have any other additional but just modification of each and every basic strike. And remember, we are doing the basic moves in Kali, or for us it's Kali exercise, but this is Kali. And so you have the kurus, which is made up of the downward diagonal strike. We have the inverted 8 or the figurang walo for the upward diagonal strikes. And we have the plantsa and tigbas, which is made up of a horizontal and a vertical chop. It's not a slice. A horizontal slice and a vertical chop. Horizontal slice and a vertical chop. A horizontal slice, so this is a slicing motion, and a vertical chop. So the chopping motion is different from the rest. So I hope you can get that, okay? And so the next patterns, I call them patterns now. The next lessons will be combination patterns of the strikes that we have learned. Combination meaning we may combine the up and down and form a different, okay, let me give you an example. The figure of M, okay, ma, figurang ma, meaning to say that there's an M, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the letter M. So it's made up of downward strikes, diagonal downward strikes, but in a different figure. So, and it's made up of a sequence, meaning to say it's sequential. There are different sequence of it, okay? And so this is how I describe the next moves. There will be combinations of strikes that we have taken up during the basic first, 2, 3, the third, up to the third lesson. Okay, so I think that's all for lessons today. Then let's go to some trivial questions. Okay, let's go back to the question of what is Kali. Okay, again, if we take a review or revisit of what we took up in the trivial statements that we had the first time. Okay, Kali is taken from the word kalis with an S, and kalis actually refers to a bladed instrument, which is a large bladed instrument. There are two kinds of this bladed instrument. One is called keris, K-E-R-I-S, keris, which was later modified in its spelling, but with the same sounding phonetical name. Keris, okay, this is well known in Mindanao, okay, where I am in Mindanao. Keris is actually a bladed weapon that with a wave, okay, I believe that a lot of you are familiar with keris. Keris belongs under the family of kalis. Okay, there are two types of kalis. One is the keris, which is with waves, okay? The blade is actually waved, and the reason for it, because mostly in kalis we use the bladed weapon for slash, and it enhances the slashing action of it. It produces more damage with the wavy blade. The other type of kalis is a long, just like this, it's long. But this is actually one of the modification of it. The real kalis, actually a family of the keris, okay, is actually double bladed, meaning to say on both ends is sharp. It's a sword, okay. This is a modified jungle bolo. I did this, okay. It's a modified jungle bolo, and it's I modified it, meaning to say, you know, I took away the belly. The belly of the jungle bolo was up to here. The belly meaning to say the bulging part of it before it went to the tip. Okay, the tip was not as sharp as this. Then I modified it by cutting a part of the belly and making it a more pointed instrument. And this is now a jungle bolo. Okay, but then I use this as kalis. Okay, now back to the trivia. So kalis is the original term for Kali, and kalis is actually a family of blades used in Mindanao, elsewhere in Malaysia and Indonesia. Okay, and since I mentioned last time in the first lesson that it's called Kali because in Spain or Spanish, the Spaniard who came in named Kalis without emphasizing the S, because Spanish language minimizes the S, as I have described before. And so time and time again, it was being repeated by Spaniards, Calis without the S, and hence we call it Cali at present time. The word Calis has evolved from Calis into Cali, and that's where Cali is derived from. So you may be hearing a lot of other write-ups, historical write-up about the origin of Cali or arnis or scrima. Okay? Arnis, by the way, again, is a Spanish term for arm or armor, arm, a weapon. Okay? That's used by the hand. That's why they call it arnis de mano. This is arnis de mano. You have a weapon that is handled by your hands. Okay, but arnis de mano may be used without weapon at all. They call it mano. Now it may also be used with a knife. Okay, they call it puñal, or a recent term that they have used is daga, which is taken from the English word as dagger. Okay, daga comes from the word dagger, which is a knife, a short bladed instrument. In local language, we call it puñal. Okay, and so there are three weapons that we use in Cali. One is the stick. We call it arnis de mano. Then we have the puñal. We have the short bladed instrument, which is a knife, or they call it daga, or dagger for that matter. And of course, the sword, or kali. Okay. And I hope that that clears some questions about why the names. Okay, now one important thing that we have to consider: the principles, the principles in the art of fighting with kali are the same whether you have no weapons, whether you are using a short bladed instrument or dagger, or maybe you are using a stick or a bladed instrument. It's the same. Okay, now the difference is that when you use the stick, use the advantage of it, whether a stick or a large bladed instrument. Okay, we use kali on its advantage of having a long reach, and hence the primary purpose of using a long bladed instrument is the reach. So the bolo is actually primarily used for a long range bladed weapon use. Okay, and we use it for stabbing and for slicing and for chopping, and that's using the advantage. So this is for long range. Long range utilizes your length of the arm and the length of the blade. That's the distance. Now, you may have a smaller weapon which is used for medium range. The medium range uses it with the distance of your fist. Okay, fist. That's actually the medium range. A lot of teachers are teaching it differently, but then again, as I mentioned to you, let's put down all the things that you have learned out of what you have learned from some people. Okay, due respect. Okay, with due respect to them, they may have learned it differently. Okay, I'm telling you what I've learned before. So when you use a stick, that's for long range. When you use a shorter instrument, as short as your wrist, that's the medium range. And when you use grappling, okay, we say grappling, holding the opponent's parts, or using a knife. That's we will study about knife later on in higher lessons. Okay, and that's the short range. Okay, so from the long range, make use of it primarily. You may be using it to short range, but there are techniques on how to use the long bladed instrument short range. Okay, so there are techniques using it. But when you have a long instrument, a large instrument, then make use of its advantage. Your advantage is having it long distance. Okay, there are some lessons, there are some teachers who teach using this for short range. Well and good, they may be good at it. I'm not. Okay, and I learned this all using the stick or the long bladed bolo for long range fighting. Of course, we may use it for short range or medium range as well, but primarily we take the advantage of it being long long range fight. Then we will slowly go into mano-mano and knife later on. Okay, so that's it. So we have taken the first 3 lessons, which actually was made up of learning the basic moves, the foundation moves of Kali. We have the downward diagonal move or kurus, the upward diagonal move or the figurang walo. We have the horizontal, we call it plantsa, and the vertical, we call it tigbas or chopping, vertical chop. The rest are modification of it. Okay, now I want you to, as an assignment, I want to give you an assignment, okay? And I hope you can try. Okay, one of the important characteristic of this kind of weapon, one important advantage, aside from it being long, okay, one important advantage of it, the versatility of it, that you can move it to the opposite, to the other hand, to change direction, okay, or to take a different forms. Okay, one important thing that you have to learn is how to move it, how to transfer your handling the weapon to the other hand. Okay, and I want you to study this. I hope next time maybe you can show me some videos of yourself explaining how to transfer the weapon from one hand to another. And it's important because when we go to the knife as well, a big advantage of the knife is you can manipulate the knife so quickly, surprising the opponent if you want it to be that way. We can make a big surprise when the knife suddenly vanished and then appears on the other hand. Okay, and we can transfer the knife from one hand to another, and it is a technique that we use in Kali. Okay, so I want you to study. Take some time. That's the next lesson. We would try to see how we can transfer the weapon from one hand to another. So much for that, friends. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you can like the page, subscribe, and it would really be appreciated if you take time looking at it completely, learn from it, practice it, and then show me. Okay, you can show me. Maybe show me some video of yourself, put it in the comments, or maybe just a photo of it, of you demonstrating how you handle it, or maybe just a narrative of how you do it. Would be good for me to analyze and go to the next lesson. So lesson number 4 is to juggle the weapon from one hand to another. So much for that today. So thank you very much, and see you next lesson. Bye bye.